when coaches come up to you, you're Brock's dad. You know,
Yeah.
I ran into Nick Saban on accident, and I was like, "Oh, you're Nick Saban." And he's like, "Oh, and you're Todd Harris." And I was like, he knows me because of him.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Solid Podcast. We're glad to have you here with us again today. We've got some special guests with us here today. We have Todd and Brock Harris. I've known Todd for over 20, actually quarter of a century. We just talked about that today. And his son Brock on. Brock is a sophomore this year and has, 25, 30 plus offers in college, a world-class wide receiver, high school wide receiver. Just met with Nick Saban about a month ago and working on becoming a tight end here as well. So those are the positions he's looking to do. But we talk a lot about father and son relationship and just so many really, really good things, lessons that we can learn as parents, lessons that if you've got youth in your household, you want to have them listen to Brock. His dad said he's a great football player. He's even a better human being, and just a great interview today.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think it's gold. So many of you guys are going to get so much, just fundamental keys on what it takes to raise great children, have a great family, and let God guide the process, and then you see the result of it. So I'm excited for you guys to hear today's episode, and thanks again for Todd and Brock showing up today and being on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So look forward to you guys hearing the podcast today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you would. Please continue to leave us some comments, and obviously it helps anytime we start talking about these solid fundamentals of God, freedom, these kind of things. It tend to get suppressed in the algorithm, and what does help is if you guys will share, like, comment. Those things do help get this message out there, so we would really appreciate that. Thank you guys for all of you that listen, and enjoy today's episode.
But we go way back, Todd.
22 years almost.
Yeah, 22 years.
That's awesome.
22 years. So we met. So we all came from the same financial company,
Yep.
right? Years ago. So this is before Brock was even around. Way before.
How old are you, Brock?
I'm 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I guess not way before, but 6 years before or so.
That's about when I started.
Yeah.
16
Okay.
years ago.
Okay.
When were you born?
April 2007.
Yeah. A year before.
There you go. So we've got two great athletes here. Because Todd, you played baseball.
I did.
And you were a professional baseball player.
I was.
You played for the Yankees, didn't you?
Minor league ball.
Minor league ball.
That's
never
awesome.
made it to the bigs or anything.
That's still.
Yeah, but minor league is still a pretty big deal. I mean, how many guys play in the minor leagues?
Not a lot. Yeah. And in fact, we just got back from Alabama, and that was one of the questions I asked him. I said, how many people do you think have sat in Nick Saban's office?
No kidding.
Not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Right. So it is a small number.
You guys were just there, what, a month ago?
Not even.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was crazy. Yeah.
Have you read his book?
Uh-uh.
His book is probably in the top 5 of my favorite all-time books.
Really?
How Good Do You Want to Be? Phenomenal book. You should read it.
Really?
Get it.
It's so good. Yeah, it's called How Good Do You Want to Be? And
Yeah. I told my wife it was kind of like going to the interview before you go to the interview to meet God.
yeah.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting with him.
In the sports world? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
he was just, yeah.
Well, Nick Saban. Yeah. I mean, if you're playing football, he's the man. He is.
Yeah.
So this is what's crazy, and the
goat.
reason I wanted to have you on, you're a sophomore this year,
Yeah, going into sophomore year.
right?
now.
And as a freshman, you started as varsity wide receiver.
Yeah.
And is your goal to stay wide receiver, maybe become tight end? What do you think is going to happen there? Do you know yet?
As in, like,
Position.
oh, yeah, so they'll mix me in at, like, slot and tight end, so I'll have my hand down a little bit. They'll also have me at H-back, blocking a little bit, too. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I'll be doing both.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So how crazy is that? Sophomore, sitting in Nick Saban's office and looking at, 24, 25, 26 college offers right now already?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Okay, so you guys got to talk about how you're managing all this, how all this came to be.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, before we get into that, let's talk about, because there's a long process to get to this point.
Big time.
It's not like it was just you were born this way, and so you got this special talent, and just it showed up easy, I'm sure. Am I right in assuming that?
Yeah, I mean.
You worked hard?
Yeah.
He is a hard worker, but he does definitely have some natural gifts.
Yep.
But yeah, there's not many kids that work harder than him.
That's awesome.
So
how long have you been playing ball?
Since the 2nd grade.
Okay.
I played up with my brother they call it 3-4, 3rd and 4th graders, and I played up with them. So.
Okay. And have you always been playing wide receiver?
No, actually, I was a linebacker and fullback.
Okay.
So
It's like middle linebacker and fullback?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Have you always been tall?
I've always been like a little taller, but not like significantly. I kind of just sprouted like 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So a year ago or 2 years ago,
Yeah.
you just sprouted up one summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. That's what happened to me. I was super short. I was like, 5'3", 5'4", and then one summer I went from 5'4" to 6'1".
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
that's a lot of growth.
I know. Everybody called me Little Jeff until one summer. That wasn't so
All
little.
at once, huh?
Yeah.
Nothing, and boom.
Yeah, crazy. So you just grew quite a bit. Were you sleeping a lot that summer?
I always sleep, to be
Yeah?
honest. I'm a big sleeper.
Yeah. Seems like when you're growing a lot, that's what happens.
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal. I remember always being tired as a teenager. You know, you're usually up late and messing around a lot too,
Yeah.
but you also need
growing.
that extra sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes energy to grow.
So how did you get the desire to play football?
Probably my brother. I mean, I just wanted to play with him.
Okay.
So, just watching him play, and then I got pretty good, I guess, and I was always one of the top players on my team, and so I stuck with it and fell in love with it.
Has it always been football?
So I played everything. I did wrestling, baseball, basketball, and then football. Yeah.
What is your favorite? Is football your favorite?
Yeah,
it is.
football is always my favorite.
Yeah. Good deal. Did you play football too, Todd?
I did, but I focused on baseball after my 9th grade year. My 10th grade year, actually, I went and got a job. Mm-hmm. We were pretty broke as a growing up.
Where did you grow up?
In Vancouver, Washington. Mm-hmm. And so I got a job at Taco Bell at first, and I had to walk about 2.5 miles to work and 2.5 miles back. And then I got a coach. His name was Tom, and he had played at Texas A&M, and he just knew he was a great pitching coach. And but it cost money, and so an opening came up at Burger King, and Burger King was only a mile from my house, and so I walked a mile to work, and that's how I paid for my pitching lessons. And I just quit everything. I knew I was. So I didn't like him. He everybody tells him he's going to go places, and I didn't have that. I was a good pitcher, but I didn't throw hard.
Okay.
Like he's what are you, 225?
Yeah,
225. I was like 187 as a senior, so super skinny.
Yeah.
But I was a really good pitcher. I just couldn't throw hard.
Okay.
I was pretty weak. Mm-hmm. And then I got strong, and that's when things started happening for me. But for him, it was way sooner.
Okay.
The pages are way earlier in the book for him.
Do you feel like going through that process help you maybe put some effort into Brock and knowing kind of how to help him navigate his, different areas for?
Yeah, I mean, well, he has a brother that's 2 years older than him, and I focus a lot with him on baseball. And he was a good pitcher. We moved down here 2 years ago, and he just did feel like he fit in.
Yeah.
Had some issues with coaches, and so he kind of walked away. But he came to me, what was it, summer of 8th grade, in between 8th and 9th grade, and he was like, "I want to be a receiver." And I was like, "You are out of your mind. You've never played receiver. I don't think you may have caught like 2 passes your whole life at that time." And then he shows me videos of him catching one-handed passes, and I'm like, "All right." And then he just lit it up.
That's awesome.
And so
what gave you that desire to all of a sudden want to play receiver?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. So in Oregon, our we lived in Oregon. Like we moved here 2 years ago, and our season got canceled because of COVID. And then I feel like that break, I don't know. I just wanted to try something new, I guess. And moving here, I just wanted to, wanted to try something new.
Awesome.
I always had visions of him being a defensive end and just killing quarterbacks. And he still has the body for it.
Sure, absolutely. You moved here has it been 2 years now?
2 years ago, August 1st.
So when you were up in Washington or Oregon, where were you?
Well, we were living in Portland, Oregon before we came here.
Okay, Portland.
I grew up in Vancouver, Washington.
Okay, so that's right. So in Portland, did everyone kind of already know you were pretty special as far as a player? I mean, before.
Those that didn't know, like one of my good friends, Jared Levitt, his son plays for the Green Bay Packers, and his other son plays for Michigan State. And he played at BYU. Just a phenomenal family as far as athletics goes. And he's always been like, yeah, Brock's the dude. And so, and he still does. He still sends me messages. Yeah. That kid's a beast.
So was that a concern moving from Portland to here as far as with his potential future, or were you going, now he'll be good?
Not at all.
All right.
We knew, I knew that the school that he was in, because of demographics and the families that were moving into that area where we lived in weren't football players.
Okay.
They're more science and
didn't have the right eyeballs on you.
Yeah.
As much as here. Maybe.
It was just a school that was just in fact, just last year they lost their head coach, they lost all their coaches, players transferred out.
It's happening to a lot of schools throughout the nation, right? A lot of schools are
I think
money from sports.
There's some freedom, I think, for if there's a good program and you want to go to it. And I had a buddy of mine from college that lived down here, and it actually ended up coaching him his 8th grade year. And we just kind of fell in love with Coach Hosner over at Pine View. If you don't know who he is, he's a legend in football. And he totally loves Brock as well.
Awesome.
So it was just a great fit.
Yeah.
Great fit to come here.
So you feel like having a coach you really vibe with has helped you in sports as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Him and Coach Shaw have been there for like 20, 30 years or something. And they're just super cool and basically legends, as he said.
Yeah.
At Pineview.
So we were talking kind of about coaching a minute ago about hard coaches or coaches maybe that aren't so hard-nosed coaches. Are they hard-nosed coaches like that? Do they push you pretty hard or?
At times when need be, I think. But Coach Hosner's kind of laid back a little bit now, but Coach Shaw, he'll get on me every once in a while, but sometimes he doesn't.
How do you respond when he does?
I think it helps me, to be honest, but sometimes I also don't. It doesn't help me sometimes, and I get in my head, but sometimes it kind of gets me angry and makes me play better. But
yeah, so you're one of those. If they back you into a corner, you tend to play better.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So your dad's here, so he can make sure that you're answering all these questions honestly. I'm sure you'd answer them honestly anyway. But are you a pretty good student? Pretty good student. That's good. And how does sports help you in all those areas of your life? Obviously you've got your world-class high school football player right now. You're world-class. You're better than most, right? Mm-hmm. How does that spill over? And your dad can comment on this too. I'd like to hear his thoughts on that as he watches you.
It's like school-wise, I guess. It helps like teachers. I guess I get a relationship. Sometimes teachers like to connect in football, like sports ways, and I can kind of get a little relationship with them. And any other ways, I don't know.
There's probably a level of respect there because you're a hard worker.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
You're a leader. You're an influencer. People probably, I would imagine, other students look up to you quite a bit because of what you're doing. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty good platform you have.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you feel like how do you feel like your parents have helped you in this process? What's your perspective on that? Like, do you feel like this is the route you would have gone regardless? Do you feel like your parents have helped influence you and kind of given you opportunities, and whether it was financial resources or better coaches or whatever it may be? How do you feel like your parents have influenced your ability to progress in sports? Yeah,
for sure. When I played baseball, he always had like a talk with me, like, every other month, it felt like, about you got to do extra work, not just practice. You remember those, just like all the time. And I just didn't do it because I just kind of was falling out of love with baseball. And then
because of coaches.
So do you feel like, Todd, when you were going through those things, and sorry to cut you off, but Todd, when you were, because I'm actually going through this with my son right now. He's just obsessed with soccer. He loves it, but I'm telling him all that stuff at the same time. So do you feel like, as you're telling Brock these things and maybe didn't see him listening, how did it make you feel during the? Did you feel like?
Well, I think he's playing that down a little bit. I would tell him, and he would go out and he would swing.
Yeah.
And he would do the things we had him a catcher. He was a great catcher. No doubt in my mind he'd be a draft pick in baseball.
Yeah.
If he had played. But got him a coach, a catching coach, and he would do he would do it.
Yeah.
Right. So he's always been that guy. And after his freshman year, last year, there was a All-American freshman All-American through Adidas, and you had to send in their tape, and I was like, I followed this stuff pretty fanatically because I'd like to see what, how does he stack up against these guys. And so I sent his tape in, and he got the invite to go down to Florida and play in this All-American game. And he had never played tight end before. And so he's out there practicing. It was like it was 5-day camp, and then there was a big game. And he was one of the only kids that didn't have an offer already. So these were some dudes that he was playing against. And my wife and I, Andrea, we were kind of worried, like, man, is he good enough to be against these guys? And we were sitting in the stands, and these two coaches come over the fence, and they're like, "Who's Brock Harris's parents?" And we're like, "Oh no, they're going to tell us to go home." And raise our hand. He said, "Come on down here." And so they just say, "Hey, we just want you to know that your son is just a awesome kid, and we love him. He's so coachable, and not only that, nobody can stop him." And we're like, "What?" So anyway, that's kind of where the whole thing started. And when after the game, there was a tweet by a writer for ESPN that said, "The best tight end we've seen come through here."
No way.
It's awesome.
And that's kind of where he blew up, as far as all of a sudden coach started, "Hey, will you come play on our 7-on-7 team? And will you do this and this and camps and all this stuff?" And that's kind of where it all started.
So it seems like, Brock, obviously your parents invested in putting you in that camp. That was a big thing. So, I mean, it's a follow up on the question that I asked about, do you feel like your parents have had a lot of influence in helping you those things? It seems like your dad has helped you do things after practice or whatever it may be, but then also invest in putting you in camps and stuff like that. How have you felt about that? Have you realized those things, or have you just been like, "Oh, this is what my dad wants me to do, so I'm going to go do it"?
Oh no, for sure. With whatever I do, I think they're there, and they've invested in me a lot. I think we've done, I don't know, I can't even remember how many camps we've done this year, just traveling a ton, all the flights and things. And we've had some help with this company that we're with, but still for sure they've helped so much with everything. And for sure it doesn't go over my head at all.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Now, there's quite a few years between now and when you go to college, right? So during this time, what are some things that you are, I guess, focused on? Obviously, getting better and all that is part of it. But, how do you make sure you stay healthy, you stay injury free? Is there a mindset with that? Or are there things and precautions you take? Because there's always risks, right? There's risks as an athlete, especially in football, of getting injured potentially, right? And you've got all these offers and people. So what do you do? What do you do between now and then to continue to improve and get better so that when you go to college, you're on the top of your game?
Coaches, every time we have a call, they always just say, just keep doing what you're doing. And so that's really what I'm doing. I'm kind of focusing a lot on just molding into that tight end type stance, because that's what they want me as. And is that because of your height and you'll put on the mass as you get big? Yeah, they say I have the frame for it. And so gaining that weight and getting in tight end stance, blocking is a big thing. Blocking way bigger guys than like corners and stuff that I would be blocking.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
He's extremely agile. extremely coordinated. Great
Your mobility's
hands.
good.
Yeah,
You stretch a lot. Things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he wasn't 6'6", 225 pounds, and he was 6'1", he'd be an unbelievable receiver.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he runs great routes and he works on that. But really, over the next, I guess, 3 years, basically, we'll just get him coaching, take him wherever it needs to be to get that coaching to where that will help him get to that next level.
Awesome. Talk about what it's like meeting with Nick Saban and some of the other colleges and getting these, because college it's different now, right? We were talking at dinner there, it was your birthday dinner we were at the other night, and you were kind of talking about that. And I think that'd be interesting for people to hear. College is almost like professional now, professional level as far as incentives and you get paid and all that stuff. And maybe just, I mean, I don't know what you want to talk about or not talk about on here, but what are some of your thoughts on all these offers and how do you keep it from getting to your head too big or getting you distracted or does it really affect you?
To be honest, it doesn't really. I'm so low key about it, and he's always asking me like, was that even cool to you? You don't even look like you
like no emotion.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. It's like when you talk to them, they're just normal people, and it's not like they're celebrities. I mean, Nick Saban, but like it was still like just normal conversation with him. So
yeah, I'm really the one that gets starstruck.
Sure.
And just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Like just 3 weeks ago, he got offered by University of Michigan, right? One of the most storied programs in college history. And he was asleep, when they called. And so I'm waking him up and he's talking on the phone, and he's like, having a good conversation, but as soon as it's done, he just goes back to sleep. It's just no big deal,
dude.
right?
I love it, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is awesome, because there's a lot of kids right now that are seniors that I want to get a scholarship, and they're trying to do everything they can to get a scholarship, and he doesn't have to do any of that. Right. I mean, he's
anymore,
but I think
anymore.
Yeah, anymore. I mean, it's set now. People will just come and offer him now, where he, and he'll have to try and figure that out. That's going to be a big decision. There'll probably be I'd probably say 50 or so offers by the time he's a senior, and he'll have to narrow that down to 10, and then to 5, and then to 3, and that's going to be a big decision. And
it's awesome.
Pretty exciting.
So I think you said something that you think he would have been, he would have made it in baseball or football regardless of what he was going to do. And I think that comes down to mindset. Would you agree with
Absolutely.
that? So, you're just saying that about getting these offers, going right back to sleep. I think that says a lot about your mindset as well. Where does this mindset come from? How have you guys developed it? Because to me, what that says is I can go right back to sleep is, hey, I'm just preparing, doing what I know I need to do to become the best. And I'm going to continue to do those things regardless of who offers me what. I'm just going to continue to be the best I can be. Yeah. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like I should be really excited like when it happens. I do, but I just keep it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
because it seems like you have control over your emotions.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I think there's a big lesson here, and what I see is you're in a position where you're ahead of the game, so to speak, right? And I think human nature is when we feel like we're ahead of the game, we're naturally probably more confident, and we're probably not as maybe starstruck or intimidated by maybe opportunities that are there. For example, the seniors like you're talking about that need that scholarship, they need it, and so if they get a little offer, they don't want to blow it, right? And they're in a different mindset because of that, right? They're almost in a desperate place versus where you're not in a desperate place. Now, I think those that are listening in life, I think if we can look at life the same way and go, man, if I can set myself up to be ahead, I've always tried to think in my life, I want to be ahead of the game on whatever it is that I'm doing so that I can be in that position where, now look, I was just talking the other day, we have one of our great mentors, Hector Lamarck's going to be on with us one of these next episodes. We're going to record with him on Monday. And I'm a little intimidated because I just respect Hector so much. Without Hector Lamarck, there wouldn't be a Brandon Neal lifestyle or a Jeff Fieldstad lifestyle that we have today. So he is that kind of figure in my life. But at the same time, if I'm working hard on me and I'm getting ahead of the game, so to speak, so that when those opportunities come, I'm not in a place where I'm I'm desperate, if that makes any sense. I don't know if
don't you think that's where the saying, it's like, it's preparation. You know, it's like
exactly
if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready kind of mentality. You're ready. You're doing the right things, and when the opportunity presents itself, you're not preparing for the opportunity. You are prepared, and then the opportunity presented itself.
Exactly.
Right. So where did this mindset come from? Todd, have you worked with him on this mindset? Did you know it was going to happen? Did you prepare for it?
Well, I think he's always, ever since he was a little kid. I mean, young. I just posted a picture of him for his first football practice. He's in second grade, and he's got his helmet on and his pads, and it's 5 hours before practice.
It's awesome.
Right. So that made me think of that when you said that he's always kind of just had that
grit.
I want to go and tear something up, right?
Yeah.
And he'll work at it, and I mean, there's been times when he's had to learn stuff, and he wasn't the best at something, but he's like, okay, but I'll work to become the best.
Yeah.
He's just always had that in him. One of the things I talked to him about all through this process is like, look, I don't want to push you. So if I'm pushing too hard, let me know. And there's been times I can see that, okay, Dad, you're getting on my nerves a little bit. And so I'll step away a little bit. But I think we have a pretty good relationship that way where, and he comes to me and tells me things, and I don't think most parents get that.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really great relationship. I've had so much fun since December, right? I mean, it was a great football season, obviously, but since December when we went to that camp and then just started going, and people, when coaches come up to you, oh, you're Brock's dad. I ran into Nick Saban on accident, and I was like, oh, you're Nick Saban. And he's like, oh, and you're Todd Harris. And I was like, he knows me because of him.
Go back again. How did you get invited to that camp? Like who got
the first one?
Yeah, in Florida.
So I sent in his tape, his end of the year highlights.
And what made you? I mean, obviously, you always want your kids to do well. Who did you send it to? Where did you get that? I mean,
it's Football University, FBU, and it's a who's who. Anybody that's played in that game, I mean, they're in the NFL.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, shoot, he was phenomenal, right? I mean, he was in the nation. He was in the top 15 in the nation in receiving yards for a freshman. In Utah, he was number 2. He could have been number 1 if they would have thrown the ball more. I think you were at the game, and we were just like, why aren't they throwing to him?
Yeah.
But so it was just like, I wanted to see if what I saw was what somebody else would see, somebody that is in the know. Because I really wasn't in the know. I know talent because I've been around it my whole life, but I wanted to see. And when we went to Alabama, we went to Georgia, Oklahoma State. I have this like pit in my stomach. Like, is he good enough? Is he? These are 4- and 5-star kids. They're all juniors and seniors, and here he is as a freshman coming into his sophomore season. Is he good enough? And then he goes out there, and it's not that he's good enough. He's better.
Yeah,
he's better than kids that are already. I mean, they're signed by Georgia.
So how many parents are out there that don't do what you did that probably should do it? They don't send the tape in. They don't take the time to do
locally,
that.
I mean,
all my friends.
And I've talked to so many people, and they still don't do it.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that parents don't do it because of maybe the financial investment, the emotional investment? What do you think it is that stops most parents from just taking that shot?
I think a lot of it is like you'll see it with your kid as you play soccer. I was a soccer player too. That was probably my first love was soccer. But
that's the real football.
No, it's soccer.
I'm teasing.
I went on my mission to Brazil, so I mean,
yes,
that's everything down there. But they don't recognize that they have something special, and unless somebody comes and says you have a special son, then they just don't do it.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, it's because we all think our kids are special, but I think
obvious I mean, we think that. So that I think what you're saying is that we think that, but most parents aren't thinking that about their kids.
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I could also see, I don't know. I think if Bridger ended up being this great football player, I think I would do that.
So here's
But-
my perspective, just looking at you guys. My son's a lot younger, and is that I think that a lot of parents are so detached from really parenting or being a leader or looking for the positive, where in a business like we've been in, that's what we're always looking for. We're always looking for talent. We're always looking for desire. We're always looking for drive. We're always looking for that little bit of edge. And so I think maybe, Todd, I don't know if that's how you saw that in your son. Did you think, or was it from your previous sports?
There is that, but we always said first one show up, last one to leave, right?
Yeah.
That's always been him,
Yeah.
right? And I've never been one that says, "Hey, we got to go, let's go."
Yeah.
Right after a practice or a game, if he wants to screw around on the field, let him go screw around on the field.
Those are the times you say the meeting after the meeting is the best meeting.
Exactly.
Right? Those are,
and he's always kind of been that kid that sometimes it's annoying like after practice and stuff. Like I'm waiting, like, okay, I'm getting hungry, But again, we have such a short window. I have a 31-year-old, and I have a 20, soon to be 22-year-old, and time goes by so fast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've known each other for almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so why not let him be in the moment?
Yeah.
And live it up and just see where he goes.
Yeah.
So,
Brock, do you feel like you've maybe made some relationships? How do you think those showing up early and staying after, how has that helped you in sports? Like, have you seen that it's helped you? Has there been times where maybe one of the other better players on the team and maybe you got a little bit more practice, or maybe you built a relationship or something like that? How have you seen that those things have helped you?
Yeah, I think it helped. It happens, and after practice, many times me and my quarterback and maybe another receiver will stay after and just see how far we can throw the ball or something.
Yeah.
And I think because our quarterbacks are so young this year, it's helped a lot with just our bond and just getting that, the camaraderie. And so, yeah, I think that does help a lot.
A little bit of relationship, a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that video Jesse Eitzler posted about his son playing soccer. I don't know if you guys ever see that video about he posted. It was so good. He was talking about his son just became this national phenom playing soccer, and he's young. And one of the coaches asked him, what did you do to separate? And he was like, all I really did is decided I was going to spend 15 minutes a day just playing with my son one-on-one, and that 15 minutes a day turned into this. But it was just 15 minutes a day.
Just the consistency. Yeah.
But it reminds me of that, just like, a little bit of relationship. You're building with the quarterback, him having trust in you, you having trust in him, but then also getting those few more passes in, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more experience. You add those things up over a couple of years, and it makes a huge impact.
Well, a lot of the things like the one-handed catches, and those are learned through the messing around times.
Yeah, just playing.
You don't get to do that when you're out on the field. Generally speaking, and so those all the first ones were all he'd just send me a text, right, and I'd be like, "What? How are you doing this?" I mean, I don't think I ever caught a one-handed pass. I never even thought about catching a one-handed pass when I was a kid. And he's doing it at such a young age, and there's kids that are now doing it at such a young age, and I think what he's going through is, a rising tide lifts all boats, and he is the rising tide. And so there's a lot of the kids, you can see it. They want to get better because he's better. Right.
Yep.
It's pretty cool to watch. It really is pretty cool to watch. And I've told every coach this, I've said, and he's not a perfect kid, right? But he's a better kid than he is a football player.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Talk about that.
Well,
What do you mean?
character,
What do you
right?
mean
It's
by
awesome.
that?
What do I mean?
What does he mean by that? I want your dad to answer that first, and then we can talk, because I want to know. You're a better kid than a football player. You're a world-class football player. You're even a better kid. So I want to hear from your dad what that means.
Yeah, I get emotional on that stuff. All my kids are great. As far as kindness, good people, I'll put them up against anyone. he's just athletic and good at the same time. I mean, if there was ever a kid being bullied, or if there's other, someone doing wrong, he'd be one of the first kids to stand up and say, stop it, like I said, he's not perfect. He does stuff, and we get on him and, whatnot, but he's just a really good kid. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got, like I say, he works hard. He's just good,
It's awesome.
Well, there's no doubt
Ultimate reward as a
that is. There's no doubt. It's not a mistake that he's a good kid and you have good kids, because we've known you, like I say, for a quarter of a century, and you and Andrew are incredible people.
Thank you.
And I think that foundation, the name of our podcast is Solid, right? We want to learn from people that live solid lives and have solid foundations, and you've done that in your home. Maybe talk about that a little bit. What are some things that you think you've done? Either one of you can answer, both of you can answer. What are some things you do in your home, or that you've done in your home over the years, to have a solid foundation at home? What are some things that stick out to you?
That'd be a good question for you.
Things we do at home.
What are some things you do at home maybe that other families don't do, that you go, man, I'm so grateful our family does these things, whether it's the way your parents treat you, some daily disciplines or some habits, or some things that your parents do with you that, you don't see other kids have that opportunity?
A couple things we do is we have a family group chat, and him or my mom will send scripture, anything, a motivational video. He'll share videos on Instagram with me every day. He'll send 4 or 5. It's a lot, but I watch him, and I think I don't think many dads do that. I think our relationship is better than most, I think. And we also just broader family wise, I think we have family dinner every Sunday, most Sundays, and just those talks at the table.
Have you ever heard your mom and I fight?
No, never. No.
Awesome.
Never.
Yeah.
Do you ever fight?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, in a fight sense, no. There's never. Yeah. I mean, she said something to me. I had a different hat on today. It was a Bundy Steel hat, and she said, "Looks like that hat's been out at the ranch," and it has been at the ranch. It's a little dirty. Yep. But I'm a proud Bundy. I'm a proud Harris, obviously. But her family is just phenomenal. So anyway, I was like, I knew I'd hear a comment, about my hat. And anyway, she texted back you don't like my comments, but anyway, so she's kind of that mom a little bit sometimes too, but that's about the extent of our fights, which is pretty great.
Or disagreements. Disagreement's different than a fight. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't really have those very often either.
Yeah.
So
how long have you been married?
It'll be 23 years in October.
Awesome.
And she sent me on my mission, and then wasn't there when I came back, but then we got back together.
Okay.
So it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you feel like these notes or videos or conversations, Todd, I'm guessing those things are intentional on your part.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Right? So it's not an accident.
Yeah, those right? and it's interesting how and you guys being coaches as well with people, I can send the same thing to my other kids and they'll look at it and they won't respond. And he doesn't respond to all of them, right? He always likes it or whatever, but sometimes he'll, I know he's getting it, right? Where my other kids, it just kind of floats on by.
Yeah.
So different personalities.
Yeah.
Every
and different desires, different.
Yeah. And I think growing up in the business that we did, we were always out there, casting and just hoping somebody would, catch what you're throwing out there, right? And he does. He catches a lot of it, and with his coaches as well. Just yesterday I watched his receivers coach came over and put his arm around Brock, and Brock put his arm around him, and I thought, man, that is so. I mean, if I'm a coach and a kid does that,
you won.
I won.
Yeah,
I'm on cloud 9.
Yeah,
right. Because most kids will just kind of just sit there and keep walking. And he put his arm around. I just like, man, that is just the greatest.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I think that says a lot about you too as a father. That because I believe that a lot of people get, almost like insecure, maybe if their son has a relationship with someone else who's going to help them get better, right? Like they're going to cast a bigger shadow. And it reminds me one time we were talking to one of my mentors, Whittle, who had sent this book out to all the basketball teams in the area, and one of the coaches didn't want to accept the book. It was like he was worried about that he was going to get more influence with those players, when really all he's trying to do is help, right? So I think it says a lot about you and your character that when your son's doing that and building a great relationship with a coach, that it makes you feel good because you realize how important that is, right?
Well, and I know my limitations as far as what I can teach him. I mean, that went out the door 3 years ago. Like, it was pretty much, Dad, you can't tell me what to do in football because you don't know what you're doing. You know, if it was baseball, it'd be a different story. But like we talked about in the beginning, I love being coached, right? And especially when somebody can, you know, really dig in and get me to move. And so I have no problem with somebody else coming in and saying, hey, your son needs to do this. And I'll be like, okay, if you know what you're talking about, let's do it.
It's because you've not allowed pride get in the way of progress. I think a lot of people, they let pride get in the way of progress. And for whatever reason, I think there's a lot of reasons that happens. But I think it says a ton about your character.
Thank you.
And it's awesome. I hope you realize that as a son, because I think naturally, I think all the way that most people would respond is they get insecure or threatened by somebody else who wants to pour in, where they feel like maybe that should be their job. But how much does that say about a person who says, no, yeah, this is my son, but I also want him to excel, and I want to put him in an environment where other people can pour into him, you know, which takes some risk as a father, you know?
Yeah. You have to make sure you're doing the right, like I've had a ton of conversations. Okay, should I go to this camp with other people that are in the know? And cause I'm like, oh, we should go to LA and go to this camp. And, you know, people are like, no, you don't really need to do that. And I'm like, but I want to do that. And they're like, no, don't do that. And so I have to be coachable as well to some of these people, because, and we're so fortunate because he has his 7-on-7s coach. Like, I would love you guys to meet this guy. His name's Jamar. But he has everything he does is altruistic. It's for kids, right? And how many kids has he got now in D1? Like 17 kids, and he's only been doing it like 3 years.
Just on my freshman team, there's like 4 of us.
Yeah, really. And he's just all about opening doors for kids to get to the next level. And so I'm always going to him and saying, hey, what do you think? You know, after every practice, I send him film of him running routes, and he'll, you know, I don't know how much he talks to you about that or not, but, you know, he's always like, yeah, that's really good. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. So I have to be coachable to people that know, right? And we're fortunately surrounded by people that are in the know.
Was that intentional as well? Sorry, Brandon.
Very good.
Well, no, that was me. That all happened. One, just moving down here. I had a very spiritual experience that we needed to move out of Portland about 6 years ago. And Portland is just a cesspool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some great people up there, but it's just the things they teach kids, and it's terrible. But I wanted to go to Texas. Andrea said no to Texas, too far from family, but she grew up here. And so I was like, well, let's go to St. George. And I was totally fine with it. And so we just kind of stumbled upon, I had a friend that was a coach in football, and he's like, yeah, this guy, he's one of the best coaches in the state of Utah history. So it just kind of all fell into place.
So you say stumbled, but a question is, so did you allow prayer to guide you?
Yeah, it was all. So I read the scriptures a lot. And I was, can we talk about?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the Book of Mormon, first chapter, you know, unfolds a story, and Nephi is with his father. His father wants to get out of Jerusalem, and it hit me. I was like, I am Lehi right now. I need to get out of here. And it was really a spiritual experience. And I can't tell you how many times I've read the first few chapters of the Book of Mormon, like hundreds and hundreds, right? A lot of times you just go back and start over. And so, yeah, it was very much it was a spiritual experience to get out. And then Andrea and I coming together as a husband and wife saying, this is what's best for our family, where to go.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that her brother Greg, who you know, we went to dinner and they was like, hey, by the way, we're moving to St. George in the summer. And we're like, we're moving to St. George in the summer. And they moved a week after we did. So it has been a matter of prayer on getting here. And yeah, I'm one of those that my prayers are more when I'm walking around, I'm talking to God, right? And I'm just, where should I go? What should I do? And so I always try and look for, the thing that comes in to my inbox or whatever. Hey, is this something? And so that camp was one of those things like, oh, wow. It was Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the list of guys that are in the NFL that went to this camp is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been around for about 12 years. And so anybody, you go in the NFL, anybody that's 12 years past is a who's who that's on this list. And so I just was like, I wonder, I wonder if he could be one of those guys.
Yeah, well, it seems like as you're talking, and that's the reason I asked that, because it seems like your character, the way you handle yourself, the way you handle situations with your kids, the lack of ego and not letting pride getting in the way. The reason I asked that question is because as I hear those things, it tells me that you're walking in faith and letting the Lord guide your steps rather than trying to control everything. And I think our natural response, we've talked about this many times on the podcast, that our natural response in life is wanting to control rather than doing everything we can control, which is working hard, showing up early, staying late, the things that take no talent, and then realizing that's the only thing we can control, but God's in control of the outcome. Right. And if we allow him to control the outcome, then great things happen like happening in y'all's lives right now.
I mean, what an act of faith to send that tape in, the way I see it, because I would think most parents are going, you're not going to be a pro football player. You better figure out what you're going to do for a living with a career. And they're not even thinking about that. And from what it sounds like to me is you're just trying to, I'm just going to do this because it feels like the right thing to do and let God share his plan, right? Instead of us trying to put our plan on his plan, which never works well.
Right.
And so what a blessing that is for both of you.
Do you see that? Do you see that in your dad, Brock? Do you see him walking in faith, or is it just something that's always been your dad, or do you notice it like, oh, I see my dad making these actions or taking these actions that I know are just out of faith, and then how does that influence you if that's the case?
No, I definitely notice everything he does, I feel like, is out of faith, and he's tried so hard with all of us to just put us down that path of everything. It's God's plan, and just do all the right things. And
so is that a conversation you guys have sometimes, is this faith conversation?
Yeah. Well, the big question that he gets asked all the time, are you going to go on a mission? Yeah. Right. And I've always been like, hey, you'll do it or not. I was baptized when I was 15, was not doing a mission thing, had another great spiritual experience that allowed me to go and put behind me a baseball for 2 years, which was really tough after being drafted by the Mets. But I've just said, look, you do what you need to do, what you think is best for you. I'm not going to push you any certain way. If you want advice, I'll definitely be there. And we were talking with Coach Whittingham at Utah, and it was the first time I'd heard him say it. He goes, it'll be a prayerful decision at that time. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, that's awesome. That's all you can do is, ask what God wants from you and then follow through with it. So I think that's going back to, he's just a great kid. Those are things that, I know kids that are, I'm going on a mission, and that's great. But for him to come out and just say, well, I'm gonna talk to God about that. That's like that.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. That's really good. I think you should. This needs to be your decision between you and God. And That's what it should be. Just as we kind of wind down here today, I'd just like to ask maybe kind of one last question when it comes to building your relationship with one another and in your family or with your coaches. What are some key things that you see from your point of view, Brock, that your coaches have done, your parents have done to build a better relationship with you to where you'd die for your coaches. You'd probably die for your parents, right?
Willing to be influenced.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are some key things they've done to build that relationship with you?
With coaches, just seeing how much work and how much they put into me and the other players. My coach, Coach Shaw, our OC, he stays up. He tells us he stays up just thinking and what he can do for us to be successful. And he's just a great kid, a great guy. His son is a great kid. And yeah, Levi Shaw, he's the other quarterback that's backing up Adam Moore, that's the starter as of right now. And yeah, just seeing how much he pours into us, I think that helps me.
Servant leadership.
Yes.
They're serving. They're pouring into you. They're getting to. Do they get to know you off the football field too?
Oh yeah.
Who you are, what you like. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Good. How about with your parents and your siblings? What are some things that you've same question? What are some things they've done to where you have that bond with your dad, with your mom?
I'd say with my siblings, I wouldn't say we've always been the closest, but I think as we've gotten older, I think me and my brother especially have gotten a lot closer and talked about our own issues. And every time I go to Oregon just to visit or something, I'm with him and my other friends, and we have some of the similar friends, and we're always hanging out. And I think we talk about more real stuff that we wouldn't have when we were younger. And so, yeah.
So you feel like traveling together, spending time with...
Yeah, and it's the same thing with him, too. As I've gotten older, I think I've talked to him about certain things that I would never even want to bring up or just keep to myself. And I think that's helped a lot.
And you feel like that bond has come because you guys have spent more time traveling and stuff with sports, but those sports have built a closer bond, and that bond has allowed you guys to build a better personal relationship. Yeah. That's awesome. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Todd, how about your point of view? What's been your and Andrea's, I guess, intention? I'm sure all this is intentional, but I mean, how do you create that kind of relationship with your kids to where they'll come to you with things? From your point, I'd like to hear your point of view on that, or your opinion on how do parents do that with their kids? Because we all want our kids. I want my kids to come to me with anything. You know?
Yeah. So my daughter went through a little bit of rebellious phase, and I had to go pick her up one night around 2 a.m. and I was livid. Fortunately, I drove for 45 minutes, but I was really, really upset. And she got in the car, and we're driving, and I just felt I need to tell her I love her. And she got in the car, and she was stone-faced, angry that I was getting her, that kind of thing. But I told her, I said, Chloe, I just want you to know how much I love you. And I didn't say anything else the whole ride home. But she wept the whole time. Brock wrote me a note when he was, I don't know, how old are you? Probably 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I still carry it in my suit coat. And just telling me how much he loved me and all that stuff. I'm a crier, so sorry about that. But I've always tried to just let my kids know, no matter what, I'm going to love them, right? And whether they're screwing up, whether they're, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm still your dad. I still love you. There's always a bed for you, and yeah, I just always wanted my kids to know that if they want a buddy, I'm a buddy. If they want a dad, I'm a dad. I've really tried to be, especially with him, because I know as he gets, like last night, I was kind of excited. We're going to go home. I was going to make bratwurst and stuff like that. And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad, because we weren't sad or anything, but he called us up and said, "Hey, can I go out with my buddies, from the football team?" And I was like, I want to spend some time with my kid, right? But at the same time, I want him to have those experiences, those fun times. And he I don't know where Applebee's, is that where you were? And he had a great time, and that's more important than, just letting them grow up and letting them be who they are versus me trying to control everything. Yeah. Because we've all seen those kind of parents, right? That have tried to control everything. And I never wanted to be that guy. I definitely, if I see him not working hard, I'm going to tell him, what you say you want to go to the NFL, but you're not doing what it takes to go to the NFL right now. You need to be working harder. You need to be getting your sleep. You need to be eating right. You need all do those things. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I just want to make sure he knows that, one, I'm proud of him, whether he walks away from football right now. It was the greatest year of my life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, this has been gold. I know the football season is starting now, right? You already got practice going on. Friday's first game.
Friday's the first game.
Very cool.
Is it at Pineview?
Yeah.
Awesome. Pineview High School in southern Utah. Are there any places people can go to check you out, to learn more about you?
That's one big thing we need to get his social media going. Yeah. So
So anywhere on Huddle is my film.
But Instagram is where
Instagram is where I don't even know my own Instagram. Let me see.
We're going to find it right now.
We'll make sure we tag it below too.
Isn't it Brock JH 2026 or something?
Yeah, so it's Brock JH 2007.
Okay. Oh, 2007. Yeah.
And so I don't use anything really else but TikTok, but I don't post anything.
Soon to be several million followers on there.
Hopefully
NFL MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, move over.
Yeah.
You tell that story when we're at the FBU camp.
Travis
Kelce.
There's this guy. There's this O-lineman with a lisp, and
he's from the South.
He's from the South, and he was after the game. He introduced my family to his mom, and he was like, "Mom, this is Travis Kelce in the front." It's so funny.
It was hilarious, but super. It was super. It was, a huge compliment, right? I mean,
yes.
For somebody
it's amazing
to call you, "Hey, Travis Kelce."
Big time.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Big time.
Well, best of luck, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being on, you guys.
Thank you.
Been gold today. So
it's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.